Now, Gen Z is flipping the script on how we earn, spend, and think about wealth. From side hustles and crypto to soft saving and mental health budgets, this generation is doing things differently. And it's not just about dollars. They say it's about values. I'm Stefanie Dekker, and this is The Stream.
Can't find any job. I think I've applied to over 100 jobs.
I feel like we should be on a yacht somewhere. Yeah, just like not here. When do you think you're gonna leave?
Brought back the ice bucket challenge. We're making our pictures look bad again on purpose. We can't afford eggs, and Zed ended his Coachella set with clarity. We're in a recession. We're in a recession.
Now, Gen Z is struggling financially. They claim they're trapped between rising living costs and stagnant wages. More and more young adults are forced to move back in with their parents, struggling to afford even the basics: rent, bills, and groceries. Well, what does this mean for their financial future? How did we get here? And do they deserve to be labeled as lazy by older generations? Well, to discuss all of this, I'm joined by Rumi Robinson, whose social media content revolves around analyzing Gen Z media, culture, and trends. He joins us from Los Angeles in California. And we have Jamie Lynch. She's also a content creator and shows us her daily interactions with Gen Z colleagues. She's joining us from Toronto in Canada. Now, before I head to you, Jamie, you work with both Gen Z and Boomer generations, and you've put some of your work interactions on social media. Before we start this conversation, let's take a look at what working with Gen Z often looks like.
Hi, Jenna. Welcome aboard. I was just checking in to see if you need anything this morning.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know I practice Silent Mondays, so I won't be speaking to anyone today. Just for energy reasons.
Yeah, I just adopted a dog, and I was wondering if I'm eligible for a 3-month paternity leave.
For the dog?
Yeah, his name is Craig. I'm a dog dad now.
Right. Hey, Lenora, quick question. Did you by chance tell our client Slay after she mentioned her mom passed away?
Oh my god, yes, but like a respectful tone. Like I said slay, but not in a happy way. I meant it as like spiritual support.
I have to say, Jamie, I spent the morning cracking up at your videos. How would you describe Gen Z, their work ethic? How are they different from previous generations?
That's a great question. So first of all, I think a lot of people, they think Gen Zs have like a bad work ethic, and they have a really bad reputation for that. Where I kind of look at it is they have a lot of boundaries for themselves that we weren't taught in the older generations. I'm actually kind of jealous of them, that the way that they work. They're not afraid to log off right at 5 when they're done. They're not afraid to take a mental health day. If they're stressed, they put themselves before their job a lot of the time. Which is something I found when I was growing up. That was just not a thing. I'd call in sick and my manager would say, "Not too bad, you have to be here." And I'd say, "Okay, well, let's go to work then." And we just prioritize sort of different things. They're prioritizing their well-being and their personal lives, which is kind of nice to see.
Rumi, we have an actual Gen Zer on the show, so I'm going to put that to you. Does that sound accurate? How do you balance your work and your life?
Yeah, I'd say that that's pretty accurate. I personally love a good work-life balance. Before I was a creator, I actually did work in corporate, and that was one of my top priorities, and I think a top priority for a lot of Gen Z. A lot of us grew up seeing our parents, seeing older people in our lives really give their all to their jobs and not really see a return for that. So I guess as Gen Z has gone into the workforce and seen how a lot of the dreams and promises that America and the world has promised us not really coming through or coming true, we really look to improving our own lives and valuing that work-life balance and life outside of work. So yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, well, we're going to play you a clip because they no longer seem to believe in the hustle culture. Gen Z wants to live when they can. They value their mental health over accumulating wealth, and they're not afraid of exploring different options beyond the regular 9 to 5.
My days of being a finance bro are over. I'm free! I'm free! I quit my job. I can literally do whatever I want. I can live my life. I don't have to see my boss. I don't have to see the back of a desk anymore. I can do whatever I want in my life. I can be a baker. I can be a painter. I'm free. It's literally 5 a.m. I'm gonna go see the sunrise right now from the Brooklyn Bridge. I've never been able to do this in my life. I'm living my life. I'm living.
There's a real sense of euphoria there, not having to go back to work. Jamie, Gen Z has a reputation for being lazy. Do you think this is fair?
I don't necessarily think that's lazy, and there's always the exception, you know, like I have some Gen Zs that work for me that are the hardest working people ever, like some that have never missed a day. So there's always those. I think it's also important to remember when like the promise of what work is giving them now, like they came into the workforce knowing like, just so you know, you're not going to make enough to really afford living costs. You're never going to afford a house. Like everything's kind of subscription based, so the things you even own are going down. And so they're walking into their work like with basically no promise of a better life. It's like you have to do this to just live. So that's also why I think people think they're lazy, because they're not putting everything into it, where we put everything into our work because it's like we were told that's how you get a better life, how you get a big house, how you get all the things you want.
It's not that simple,
Whereas they
is
kind
it?
of know better.
Yeah, they've learned from,
Yeah.
I suppose, like Rumi said, they're looking at the experience of the generations before them. Well, you might have read online or heard some people putting the blame on Gen Z and telling them they're not trying hard enough to find decent jobs, or that they need to grow up and find side hustles if they want to leave their parents' house. But if you asked young graduates who are still unemployed, the story may be a bit more complicated.
I'm applying for these jobs which are like 24, 25, 26 grand, right? Not even getting a call back. I have over 3 years of admin experience. I have a degree. These are entry-level admin jobs, just in a charity, because I want to work in a charity. Not even getting an interview. And it's like, I've had three interviews I've had. I've been looking for work since January, because I finished uni like a few days ago, and I was trying to get something set up when I finished. Didn't happen. 3 times got really close. 1 time, offered me the job, and then I chased them up about it after I accepted, and was like, hey, can I have like the formal contract through? Oh, sorry, the job's not available anymore, actually. What do you mean? What do you mean? Where did it go? Where did the job go? What happened to it? Like, you offered me it, and now it's disappeared.
I have a bachelor's degree. I have 4 years of experience in mental health, 10 years of experience in childcare. I have experience in higher education, aquatics, food service. When I was in high school, I tutored refugees in English, and I speak French. And I do not believe that there is any job that I am above. I'm telling you, I got rejected by Taco Bell and Sam's Club.
Rumi, you were nodding there. Does this resonate with you? Like, how hard is it to get a job? I mean, you're a content creator, right? You work for yourself.
Yes, I do work for myself, but I have been in the job market recently and also have a lot of friends where this really resonates with. I feel like Gen Z gets the lazy allegations all the time, but realistically, like, we are more educated. We have like higher levels of education. We are going to school. We are like showing up and getting all the traditional qualifications, getting the degrees in like these specific fields. But with the job market being what it is right now, it's incredibly hard to get a job. It's incredibly hard to get an interview, a callback. I have friends that graduated with me in 2022 and still are out of work, like looking for positions. And that's not even talking about like the layoffs that have been going on that target more junior levels, being those Gen Z roles. Yeah, it's very real, unfortunately.
Jamie, you work with Gen Z, which you document so hilariously on your TikTok. How would you explain the difference? Give us specifics between Gen Z's approach to work. You were talking about valuing their mental health rather than, millennials or even the older generations. Where is the divide? And you said you were jealous.
Yeah, where the divide is, I think it's for us and like the older generations, hustle was good. Like grinding yourself was like a badge of honor, basically. It's like I worked 2 jobs. I worked like 12 hours yesterday, and that was like something that we said kind of with pride. Whereas the younger generations, I can see them sometimes, like in the workplace, they'll want their full lunch every day and they won't come back 2 minutes early. And the older generations are like, oh, they're like, can't even deal with these people. But it's like, they should take their lunch. That's what they're supposed to get. And whereas we're just like feeling proud that we don't need a full lunch, we can come back early. We're not getting anything for that. There's like no benefit for hustling and grinding. So I'd say the biggest difference is that they just don't think that as like something, a source of pride to grind themselves, where we really did.
Yeah, they say they don't see the rewards. While more and more surveys prove that young people have to rely on the bank of mom and dad because they can't afford the basic necessities like paying rent and their bills. Well, around 18% of 25 to 34-year-olds living in the UK are still living with their parents. And that's according to the Institute for Fiscal Studies. And the Resolution Foundation says the rapid rise in housing costs is one of the main barriers to independence for young adults. Prices have outpaced earnings by so much that Gen Z reaches life milestones later in life, if at all. Rumi, do you have a house? Do your friends have property? How difficult has it been?
I do not have a house, nor do I know anyone.
You're cracking
really.
up at the idea of it, even.
Yeah. Like I actually have been joking about this with my friends, being like, oh, I really miss house parties. Like I miss going out and having house parties growing up. And I was asking my friends, like, why don't we have house parties? And they're like, because none of us own houses. And I think that's like the reality for a lot of us, like building and investing for houses, for long-term properties just seems like something that's so far in the future for us, because right now we are trying to upkeep with like basic necessities, trying to maintain like the day-to-day and all of that.
That really does give an example, doesn't it? That you thought it was that sort of far-fetched of the idea of you being able to afford your own property, I think, which also goes to show how difficult it is. There's a lot of things harder these days, it seems, for this generation to get it together financially. Jamie, why is that? You have people working for you, they have salaries. Why can't they make these ends meet?
Well, you hear about it all the time. People say, like my parents bought their house for $150,000. Now they can sell it for $900,000. And if you look at salaries and wages, they haven't inflated that much and gone up. So it kind of makes sense. Like it's kind of impossible. Like me, myself, I'm a millennial. I think it, like in the last few years, 5 years, millennials have realized like, oh shoot, we might not be able to own a house either. Just because like the cost of house and the cost of rent is so much higher now. I remember when I was 20, I lived in the same town I live in now, and I paid $400 a month for rent. And this is like in a nice house with some girls. And now I talk to people, they're like looking for apartments, my little Gen Zs, and it's like, yeah, I have the 1 bedroom for $2,100 a month. And it's like, I know that their paycheck, and it's like, I don't even know how you'd afford food if you rented that place. But that's like one of the only options.
Do you own your own property now?
I do not. I do not. Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a lot of talk online about how tough the economy is for Gen Z and for all of us, as we've just been discussing, but Rima explains more.
Press-on nails, office wear is now on trend, and high fashion is using fresh food in their ad campaigns. There's talk on social media around the world about recession-proofing your life. It's been used at least 20,000 times. But wait, before we get into this any further, what exactly is a recession? It's when a nation's economy weakens and slows down over a period of time, the benchmark being 2 quarters of consecutive negative growth. So, what are the key indicators that tell us about the health of a country's economy? The biggest indicator is actually tracking a country's GDP, or gross domestic product. That measures the total value of goods and services, including trade. How the housing market is doing, jobs numbers measuring the unemployment rate, and interest rates are what experts look at for the bigger picture. Which leads us to inflation. Economists have long since warned it's eating away at our salaries as the cost of living worldwide has skyrocketed. Uncertainty over our financial futures has really complicated things. But social media is still full of people spending and buying small luxuries, like a Walmart Birkin or Labubus. There may not be a need to panic just yet, as global economists aren't rushing to call a recession anytime soon. But does all of this matter when millions of people around the world feel that they're just surviving paycheck to paycheck?
Now, Rumi, there's a report I was reading, you might laugh at this as well, the Bank of America saying that Gen Z will become the largest and richest generation in the next few years, also due to inheritance. At the same time, they say that also the generation currently doesn't have the balance in the bank account to cover a month of spending. Do you see, because at the same time, you also have this generation of online content creators who are multi-millionaires, which never was available in the generations before. So is it fast money but hard money? How does it work?
Yeah, I first want to say that is such an interesting, like the difference between those two stats is crazy. But yeah, I'd say there is a vast difference here. Like we have a lot of people that are able to make money very fast, and it's very much in your face with social media. You see like influencers living these super luxurious lives, and people online like advertising how you can make money really quick by doing like either affiliate stuff or just social media work. But for, I think, most people, the average person, that's not necessarily your reality and not what you're seeing day to day in your real life. Like that is mostly online. And what your real life is what we've been talking about before, of people that are struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, and just trying to make ends meet, because unfortunately, social media is not reality.
Yeah, it's a good reminder to everyone, isn't it, as we spend more and more time on our phones. Jamie, do you find this generation more financially savvy? I mean, they have grown up in a very fast-changing time, digitally, artificial intelligence. It's going so fast, it's very hard to keep up. Do you think this has also affected how they see things?
Absolutely. And we have to remember that they've grown up with social media fully being a part of their life. So I think making content is like kind of conditioned into them, like wherever they go, you know, take a picture, do this sort of thing, whereas we didn't really have that pressure. But as far as like big spends and big buys, I find like the subscription model right now is just crazy. So like ownership has gone down, you know, when we were growing up, we had CD players in our room, and we like had a CD collection or a DVD collection, that sort of thing. So we took a little bit more pride in like buying things and having things. Whereas now, it's just very different. You know, even if you buy a book, it's on like Audible or Kindle, and they can take it back even after you bought it because it's digital. So I think they think of spending a lot differently than we do. A lot of it is like paying for apps or paying for some sort of like technology, that sort of thing.
Rumi, do you see the world that's become more digital? So your generation, I'm asking you a very broad question, but less invested in the materialistic because everything is so quickly available online? Like, does that work? Does that have a role to play?
I'd say when it comes to like materialism, we actually are kind of seeing a pushback to that, where people are really valuing things that are more tangible, more in person, because we have such an oversaturation of like the online and the fake. And when we talk about things like the subscription model and how everything is basically a subscription, it comes back to the whole conversation around like ownership. Like, what do we really have for ourselves that we aren't paying like $9.99 a month for? So really seeing that push for like tangible real life things that we have more agency over and more of a control over, I think is definitely where at least Gen Z is seeing things go.
Well, they also say, don't they, that Gen Z has higher anxiety and higher stress levels. And it's interesting, Gen Zers are saying that they look older for their age because of this. Listen to this from TikTok.
Apparently, Gen Z is like aging really rapidly.
It is mainly because of the stress. Come here. We live in a time nowadays where millennials look way younger for their age, while Gen Z looks way older for their age. If you don't believe me, I'm Gen Z. Get closer. I am Gen Z and nobody ever believes me. When my mom and I walk out in public, people think that my mom is my younger sister. Right, when I tell people, oh, I'm gonna go hang out with my family, they think I'm talking about my children. I don't have kids, right? I'm talking about my parents. I'm still the child. Does that make sense? I'll put it to you like this. Zendaya is older than me. Tom Holland is older than me. That's, you get what I'm saying right now? What I'm saying is, so Gen Z definitely looks older. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Rumi, I'm gonna put that to you. Is that a valid assessment?
Ooh, first off, I love Jordan. That was funny. But I wouldn't say that that's 100% accurate that Gen Z looks older.
Are you
I
more
think
stressed,
that a
do you
lot of us
think?
are coming to grips. Oh, yeah. Stress for sure. And I do want to say shout out to retinol and skincare lines and skincare products. I think that Gen Z really does value skincare and has been like on the skincare trend from an earlier age. We're not quite competing with Gen Alpha yet. But yeah, we do have really high levels of stress, but I think that our use of skincare and use of sunscreen really kind of helps like that. And we're also aging. We're getting used to aging. We're getting used to getting older. And I think a lot of this is like an initial panic to the fact that, oh, wait, we're not teenagers anymore. And we do age. We are getting older.
It happens to the best of us. Unfortunately, there's no stopping that. Yes, Jamie, we're running out of time. Please do respond. But I also want to get from you, what has Gen Z taught you? What can we all learn from the Gen Z generation?
To have a nice work-life balance. I think that's really important. Prioritize mental health. Just speaking to that social media, what you just said before, they grew up with social media, so I think their depression level is a bit higher, which might go to the aging, but it also comes down to the skincare and makeup stuff. They are taught how to like contour and look really good right from social media early, and I think that's speaks to why people think they look so much older, whereas my generation was just put like blue eyeshadow and pink blush on and we were done. But the best thing that just not to take work so seriously. Work used to be a part of my personality. It still is, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, as I said, I'm jealous of them and I look up to them that they just prioritize different things.
Rumi, how do you see your future? Do you see it in the traditional sense, a family, kids, the house, the car? Do you think all of that is within your reach now?
Ideally, I'm manifesting. But yeah, I still do aspire, despite everything and what the statistics say, I still do aspire for a lot of those like traditional markers for success. So yeah, I'd love a job. I love a marriage. I love the dog of it all. Is it going to happen? I don't know. But yeah, I'm still cautiously optimistic about that.
Last one to you, Jamie. Has life become more expensive for all of us? Is the struggle, not just Gen Z, for all of us because of the changing times we're living in?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I bought grapes yesterday and they were at $13 for just grapes. It's, rent, gas, groceries, buying a house. The cost of living is pretty insane right now. I think about people on minimum wage and that's scary.
Okay, well, that's been a very interesting conversation. It is tough for all of us making ends meet, but like we're saying, something to learn from Gen Z to balance the work-life experience, because of course, we only have one life. Thank you, Rumi and Jamie, so much for joining us, and thank you for tuning in. If you have a comment about our show, talk to us on social media. This is also your show, and we're always open to your suggestions. Use the hashtag or the handle AJStream, and we will, of course, look into it. Thanks for being part of the conversation, and I'll see you soon.